Hey everyone, and good afternoon. I'm here with Tammy Ward. She's with the Better Business Bureau, and she's the director of communications over there. And we have never met before today,
No,
so thanks
instant
for
message.
yeah. So thanks so much for braving that and coming on
Oh,
in.
no problem.
Appreciate it. But I'm excited to learn a lot about you. For those who don't know, the reason why I do these one-on-ones inside the Pensacola Area Chamber Tribe is just an opportunity to allow people to tell the rest of the group about themselves. So if you're in the group long enough, your turn is coming, everyone. So just be
That's
ready.
a promise, not a warning.
That's right. That's right. And I'll reach out to you on Facebook. Okay, fantastic. Well, Tammy, thanks again for coming in here. Have you ever been
sure.
in the chamber office before?
No, this is my first time.
Okay, all right, great.
In this building, I guess I should say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You are familiar with our older building.
Yes.
And your office is not too far from here, is it?
No, when people call and they want to come by, I can give them the address, but it's a lot easier for me to just say we're behind Krispy Kreme.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they're automatically, oh, I know exactly where you are.
Everyone knows where Krispy Kreme is.
Exactly.
Well, now there's a second location.
There is a second one, so we're off the one in Cervantes, but we're on Gadsden Street.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, they are members with the chamber, and we eat a lot of their donuts. So.
I gain 5 pounds sometimes just coming in from our parking lot, depending on how the wind's blowing, I'm like, oh no.
Whew. All right, enough about donuts. Let's talk about you. So,
Okay.
Tammy, how long have you been in Pensacola?
In the Pensacola area,
Yeah.
I have been here about 7 years. I actually started, when I first moved here, I lived in Crestview for a few years, and I worked in Milton. And then I moved to Milton. So technically in Florida, I've been here 10 and a half years.
10 and a half years. And where did you live before?
I grew up on the eastern shore of Maryland.
Okay.
And I went to school in Salisbury, Maryland, at Salisbury University.
Salisbury.
Yes, it's
Okay.
about, if anybody knows any kind of up north is what people say I'm from.
Yeah.
It's not too far from Ocean City,
Okay.
Maryland,
All right.
on the Atlantic, but also the eastern shore of Maryland, and most people know the western shore where Annapolis and Baltimore are.
Yeah.
And then I spent about 12 years in Delaware working there before I moved here.
Okay, so you went from Maryland to Delaware.
I hopped over that state
to
line.
here. Now, what took you to Delaware initially?
My job.
Your job.
I worked for the United Methodist Church.
Okay.
So anyone familiar with the United Methodist Church as it currently is, we are broken up into conferences. So all of the churches in the state of Delaware and the eastern shore of Maryland were part of one conference. And
Right.
so I was the communications director for all of those churches.
And then you worked full time for the United Methodist
Yes.
Church there?
Yes.
And then were you still working for the church when you moved down to Pensacola?
I knew I was moving, and so I guess I turned in my resignation and I stopped working there about 3 weeks before I moved.
Oh, okay. All right. And if you don't mind sharing, what brought you to Pensacola?
I've always wanted to live in Florida.
Okay.
And I actually had a serious boyfriend at the time who was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And he spent a year in Korea and then got to choose where he wanted to go. And one of the places was Eglin that he chose. And that's where they placed him. So we moved here right after Father's Day in June of 2009.
2009 was actually an interesting time to be moving anywhere and relocating. Now, he was in the military, so job security wasn't really that important for him.
Right.
But for you, what did you end up doing? Were you planning not to work, or were you looking actively for work? Because that could have been pretty challenging.
Basically, what I told him was because he went TDY or basically a duty station change. He was in Korea for a year and he owned a home. So it was his household that was coming to Florida, his Korea household, and my household. And so when we moved, I said, when we get a house, I'm going to wait until after all three of those moves have come to the house and I've taken care of it, because I didn't want a full-time job after I got home from a full-time job.
Yeah.
And we literally, it was 3 different moving days that they came, and then it took me a good 3 weeks on each of those moves to get things where we needed them to be.
So I don't want to have a focus on relationships and where that went. So I'm just going to kind of go over that. But then you eventually ended in Pensacola to where you are now.
Yeah.
And you said you've been here a total of 10 and a half years. Is that correct?
We moved in June of 2009.
Okay.
We have a house, or we bought a house in Crestview. I'm no longer with him. I moved myself
I
to
didn't
Milton.
ask.
That's okay. That's okay. And he's happy where he is. I'm happy where I am. So everything worked out really well. But I was working in Milton at the time. It was called Bay Area Food Bank, and now it's feeding the Gulf Coast.
Oh, great.
And that's where I started.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that was my interview for them was on January 11th, 2011 at 11 a.m. And last week, I guess it was last week, I did a presentation and I told them about that, and I said, guess what? It's February 20th, 2020, and we started at 2 o'clock.
When you were doing the presentation.
Yes, last week. So I said it hasn't happened to me since that time. Before that, I worked for the United Methodist Children's Home, and they have a place in Crestview. And that didn't last very long. They created the position, and then they decided to do something else with the money. So I wasn't even there a year. And so when I got the job at the food bank, that's when I started working with the Pensacola Chamber and other nonprofits, and really getting to know the area and getting to know Pensacola. And so now I can actually say, depending on where I'm going in the Pensacola area, I still use my GPS, but it's a lot easier now.
Yeah. Now, when you were with the food bank there,
Yes.
you said you were working with the chamber, building those relationships
Right.
as the communications director there.
It's called external relations, basically,
Okay.
yes. So I did the food drives, the
Okay.
volunteering, and going out and speaking. All of that was encompassed into one position when I was there.
Well, you said it was based in, did you say Pace or Milton?
Milton?
Milton,
Yes.
And then how big was that territory?
We had 7 counties.
That one location?
Yes. The food bank is basically located, their main office is in Mobile, but they go from Mississippi all the way over here. So we went into 7 counties. I believe it was 7 counties here. And it was interesting because I went from 7 counties with the food bank, and the Better Business Bureau has 14.
Yeah.
We just doubled from what it was. But yeah, we worked in 7 different counties.
And just for some context, because I'm not real familiar with, and this may have changed since it's now feeding the Gulf Coast,
Right.
Completely different thing. But what difference was the food bank compared to, say, what Manna is here?
The food bank, the Feeding the Gulf Coast is a food bank. Manna is a food pantry. The biggest difference is the food banks provide food to food pantries, but do not give out food directly to individuals.
Okay.
And the food pantries, Manna being the biggest one in this area, they give directly to individuals and to families.
Great. Okay, well, I had no idea. That makes a big difference knowing those details. Okay, now you were there for how long at the food bank?
I was there until November of 2013.
Okay, you were there until 2013, and then you transitioned from there to not the Better Business Bureau, because we had this
Right.
conversation. So what was the next place that you worked?
I worked for the American Cancer Society, and I was in charge of the Cattle Barons balls.
Cattle Barons balls.
Yes.
You're going to have to educate me because I have no idea what you're talking about.
That is a high-end ball, basically. So the relays work with individuals, Making Strides works with individuals and groups and things like that. And their sponsorships are on the lower end, whereas for the balls, just like all the other balls that we have in the area, sponsorships, you can sponsor the entire event, you can sponsor a table. It's a one night, one evening event, and they didn't do it last year, so I think they're trying to revamp it and make it a little bit different this year. But the levels of sponsorship are seemingly a lot higher than the relays and the strides, and they're not walks. It's just like there's a band and there's a silent auction, and it's just one event. That for that evening.
So, did you say that that's all your function was to plan that one event, or
No,
was it
I
all
actually I had three.
Oh, okay.
I did the one in Tallahassee, the one in Fort Walton Beach, and the one here.
Oh, okay. It was all right.
Yes, so there were three
spread apart.
separate events
All right.
spread across a wide area, which is very difficult when you're not
Sure.
living in those areas.
Oh, right.
We did have volunteer chairs and we had volunteer committees that
Mm-hmm.
worked, but I spent just a little, I guess, under 2 years there, and one of my best friends, that Stacy, that works at the Gulf Coast Kids House, she received the Torch Award from the Better Business Bureau in the summer of 2015. And our boss, Norman Wright, CEO, he actually said, "Hey, I'm losing my communications director. Do you know anybody?" And so Stacy was the
Oh, I
one
see,
that
I
let me
see.
know.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I've always said, and it keeps reiterating itself, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yes.
And she
yes.
let me know, and I applied. And a couple weeks later, actually the day after the Cattle Barons Ball here in Pensacola was my last day. And I started on
see.
Monday
I
at Better Business Bureau, and I've been there 4.5 years.
All right. So we're going to talk about the Better Business Bureau, and then we're going to kind of rewind a bit.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because I've got organizations.
Exactly. And that's what I want to rewind
Sure.
back to. So let's go ahead and talk about the
Okay.
Better Business Bureau, what you're doing there, and what the function of the Better Business Bureau is. And the only reason why I'm even asking that, because it seems like one of those questions where people would say, everyone knows what they are.
Right.
But it's not true, because sometimes people call the Chamber of Commerce thinking that we are the Better Business Bureau.
And vice versa.
And I'm sure people give you all a call thinking that you're
Exactly.
the Chamber. So there's definitely differentiation there. How about let's first talk about what is the primary role and mission of Better Business Bureau. What do you all do?
We are a nonprofit organization, which I wanted to say right up front, because a lot of people think that we're either a government agency or we get funded by the government, but we are a nonprofit agency, our organization. We are there to help consumers and businesses, not just one or the other, and we're here to also alert consumers to make sure that everything advertising-wise or things that come out for scams and that kind of thing. We educate the consumers about businesses. We do have an accreditation program. We have over 24,000 profiles on our website of businesses and charities, where we would hope that consumers would go to our website or call our office and first find out about a business before they go and do business with them. And I tell people during my presentations, do not do business with someone simply because you see that they have a complaint, but just look through the complaint, see how the business responded to the consumer's complaint, because that's more important than someone that just doesn't have any reviews or complaints at all. And so we're there to help but we're also there to help the businesses, because as an accredited business, they carry our seal. It says to a consumer that we've vetted them. We know that their licenses, if they need them, are up to date. We've done all the backgrounds to them. You can count on them to be a good business to work with. And then if there are any issues, then we get the business and the consumer together and we try to work out those issues. So we're there for both the consumers and the business.
Okay, so is the Better Business Bureau a membership organization, or is it just a nonprofit organization that someone can file a complaint versus any business?
It can be any business. It does not
Okay.
have to be an accredited business that you file a complaint with.
Okay.
We take complaints for everyone.
Okay.
And what we do, which is different from a lot of the URLs that are out there, when you type in a complaint, and we have to have it in writing, or a review, it doesn't go immediately up on that profile of that business's website. We actually receive it, and electronically, the email that you send that review or complaint on gets an email back to make sure that that's a working email.
Sure.
And then once we get that, we then send it to the business, because we want to make sure that the business can say yes or no, this person was a client of ours, because there are some URLs out there that allow anyone to write up something and just put it out there. And unfortunately, we may have, not necessarily in this area, but there are businesses that want to put themselves above another business. So they may write a bad review on another business, on a competitor, and it might go straight up on other URLs, and then there's no way for that business that they wrote about to dispute that.
Yeah, I just saw a picture or a meme or whatever, and it was a photo of one of those sandwich chalkboards outside of a business, and it said, "Come here to try the worst cup of coffee as stated by that one person on Yelp or TripAdvisor or something."
Yeah, exactly.
And with TripAdvisor and Yelp, which as of recent has really gotten a lot of flack for not vetting the reviews.
Just letting any review go up and not being able to verify.
So there's a differentiation between the process of what you all do, and there's that vetting process. So, okay, let's say I have a company, and I'll just call it
ABC company.
ABC Blinds
Right.
company. And someone files a complaint against me, it's not going to immediately go up on your site. You're going to reach out to me
Yes.
and to my organization, and then give me an opportunity
to respond.
And
actually, if that person was a customer, we make sure that oh yes, we had that person. And sometimes they've, and the complaints don't come automatically. We actually contact the customer and say, have you tried to contact the business? Have you tried to work it out with them?
Right.
And then if that's the case, and we're kind of like their last resort, only to the fact that we want to make sure that they've tried themselves to work it out with the business. It's not fair on the business's part if they've never been contacted by the customer. And so we want to be there for the business as well, and we want to make sure that they didn't get resolution themselves. And then once that complaint or the review comes in, then it goes to the business, and then the business has a chance to respond. And we actually can go back a couple of different times, because the customer, once the business responds, then we send that to the customer, and the customer has a chance to respond back.
That's interesting. So I had no idea that's how that process worked. And now, you were talking about accreditation, being a business becoming an accredited business with the Better Business Bureau. What is that process like? Is there a cost involved? And what else does that person receive for becoming accredited, other than, just getting the sticker in the window or whatever? I don't even know if you do that, but
yeah, we do.
So I'm just curious, because I know that there are some other benefits that you all provide.
Yes. Once they are either contacted by us, or they can contact us, and we, once they say that they would like to join, to be accredited, then we actually have them go through a vetted process. We go through a background check of the business and the owners, and we make sure that they don't have a criminal history. We want to make sure that all of their licenses, that's when we check their licenses. So if it's a contractor, there are certain licenses they have to have depending on what business they do or what services they provide. We make sure that all of those licenses are up to date. And then they go to our board of directors, and they approve the business. There is a yearly cost involved, and it all depends on the size of their employees, so the size of their business.
I see.
And there's a one-time fee, and then after that, they it's just the yearly a fee. With the accreditation, they do get the sticker that you talked about.
Yeah.
If they have service vehicles, there are signs, the BBB accreditation sign that they can put on their vehicles, and they can put that on all of their materials, their marketing materials. They can put it on their website.
Great. Right.
If they put it on anything electronic, like their Facebook page or their website, they can actually hook up their profile from the BBB site to their website and or Facebook page, so that if somebody is looking a little bit deeper after they've gone to their website, they can click on the seal and they can go to the BBB profile that we have, and they can read all about the information. They have the opportunity to put photos of their services and business and information on that profile as well. So it's an enhanced profile.
I see. So it's more than just a text representation.
Exactly.
They can add some personality and some
Right.
branding.
Exactly. They can use that. And like I said, they can use that seal anywhere they want to on their marketing materials.
Okay, very cool. Now you're the director of communications
Yes.
there. And what does that mean?
I handle all types of communications.
Okay.
I am working with a website. We actually have a bbb.org is our website for all of our BBBs. So we have about 100 of us that are in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. But we do have our own site. So ours is bbb.org/NWFL. And so we have our local things there. And then all any kind of news things that I put up or press releases and things like that, you can find on our site. I give presentations. I go out and I talk about identity theft and credit.
Oh, okay.
And scams is a big one. In fact, I've been known locally in some places as the scam lady. So when they see me coming or they get an email, oh, there's another scam out there. And so the presentations are a big part. So I am available to come to your organization, your business, talk about the different scams that are going on. I do a lot of senior scam presentations, and just, it's important for the Better Business Bureau to be one of the educators of those scams that are out there.
Cool.
So that's what I.
And I didn't know that you all provided, those educational tools as well. So that's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, now let's back up a little bit. So
how did I get here?
Yeah, we're going to back up and rewind and go to the things not work that you've been involved in. And I know that just from your experience and the interactions and the involvement that you had just in the United Methodist Church, probably you got your hands involved in many different things, many different organizations, volunteering when you didn't know you were volunteering, kind of thing. And as your work life progressed and your career progressed, the organizations that you interacted with and volunteered for also did too. So I'm curious, because we've never even talked about this. You might not be involved in anything, and I'm asking an empty question. But I have a feeling that you are. I have a feeling that you are. So what extracurricular, things are you involved in, or have you been involved in?
I have to start this off by saying that when I was still in college, one of my sorority sisters said, "Why don't you go part-time school and full-time activities?" Because from the very get-go, I was always involved in different organizations. One of the most important ones and that I'm most proud of is my sorority. It's Zeta Tau Alpha.
Okay.
And I just got a notice, because they're doing this electronically, that the 15th of February, I celebrated my 35th year.
Wow,
as
congratulations.
Being a member. Yes. So if that's college, then that kind of says how old I am, when you go to college. So after school, after I graduated, we started up an alumni chapter in the area. And so I was president of that one. And when I moved here, there was no local chapter. And so we had a virtual chapter that hadn't been created a couple years before that. So I joined that and I moved down here, and then I got names and phone numbers of a few ladies that were down in here in this area, and I actually, with a couple other ladies, we restarted the chapter. So we reformed
cool.
the chapter. All of the alumni chapters have their own license, whatever they call that for nonprofits. But because we have a checking account and things like that, we have to go and have an audit ourselves and whatnot.
I see.
So
Yeah.
instead of creating a new one, we just picked up the one that was before. And it had gone dormant because the members had started raising their families, and they just got busy into other things. So I was president for 4 or 5 years, and now I'm secretary treasurer of that organization. We still meet. We have about 24 paid members, and we have a lot more. This is a very interesting area because the military plays a big role. So a lot of people come and go, and they're not here a long time. Also, when I graduated college, I became a member of the Junior Chamber of Commerce, which is different from the Chamber of Commerce.
All right.
I think one of the localist, the most local is, I think, Destin. I think I looked it up several years ago. I ended up being president of that organization. Through that organization, there was a farmer program, a young farmer program that John Deere was a big sponsor of. And through them and being the coordinator for the state of Maryland for the Junior Chamber, I was able to travel to so many different places when we had our annual meetings. And we recognize farmers, and they were able to be recognized on a national level, which was really cool. So through that organization, I got to meet a lot of people throughout the United States, and I went to a lot of different places. So that was really neat for me. And I was also the communications vice president of our communicators group for the United Methodist Church. So I was able to travel different places for that and got to know people from all over the country. So I've been very blessed in the fact that I have been able to travel to the different states and being, the different things and get to know different people from the different walks of life. Then I moved here. After I moved here, I started in the Milton Rotary. And when I got the job at the Better Business Bureau, my boss was like, you can stay in Rotary, but Milton at lunchtime is kind of hard to go back every Tuesday. So I went around. We have several Rotaries in the Pensacola area.
Yes, we do.
Every day of the week, you can find one. So if you're a member and you need a makeup, you can choose. Some of them breakfast, lunch, dinner. I mean, there's different ones. I did choose Five Flags that meets on Mondays at Scopolo's New World. And I'm actually this year the secretary, and I will be president-elect as of July 1st.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And so I'll be president for the 2021-22 year.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I've been in a few organizations. I'm involved in the community somewhat, yes.
So out of all the things that you've done outside of your working career, what would you say has been the most gratifying thing? What have you gotten out of being involved in all these different organizations, and most recently being heavily involved now in the Rotarians?
Just the networking that's involved with it, and being able to help people in the community. Being not from here, I listen to a lot of people, oh, well, I grew up here, I went to school here. But I'm I'm in a unique perspective area that it's nice to know that there's organizations like Rotary that are all throughout the country and all throughout the world. And the basis is to help the less fortunate, or be able to provide not just community service, but also leadership training. I got a lot of leadership training through my work with the Zeta Tau Alpha fraternity, and I continue to do that. that is an organization where they are actually creating programs for collegiate schools, not just our sorority and our collegiates, but we have been able to give certain things like risk management and the mental health care. We've created those programs through our foundation, and we've been able to provide that to colleges and universities across the country. So just being able to help.
What would you say throughout all of that? I know that you get gratification from being able to help. Is that also what drives and fuels you to continue to do that? And does that somehow tie into what you're doing now with the Better Business Bureau?
I think it does, because when I go out and give, my supervisor, Norman Wright, he actually asked me a little while ago, all of your job responsibilities, if you can put them into a category.
Yeah.
I think it was the top 5 or something like that I did. And presentations was up there towards the top, because it was the ability to be able to tell someone something and educate them, especially in our senior population, about the things that to look out for and to be careful about, the vulnerability of those people, and just to be able to educate, what the Better Business Bureau is, but also what the different presentations that I give with, identity theft, and just, making people aware. And sometimes I'll be standing there and I'll be saying something, and the look on the people's faces, the light bulb comes on and says, I thought about that, or that's, why didn't I think about that? Or, you're saying it, so it's got to be real. I like, talking about some different, and every time I give a presentation, I come back with more stories, and I share that with, my future, the groups. And it's interesting because I tell people I wouldn't be standing here if it didn't happen. And sometimes when I talk to younger groups, I get that look like, ugh, like, how can they have been like that? How could they have been that vulnerable? How could they have, not known that? But you don't know what your situation is when you get that phone call or when you get that email. How quick are we to click on something without thinking first, this might not be a true email. This might be going to something that a URL that's bad.
Right.
So it's that educating people and having that ability to be able to let someone know. And even if one person was touched, I think I've done my job.
I just had a conversation with someone that I was doing a project with yesterday, and they were telling me about a scenario where, and they do, they're a title company, for real estate.
Okay.
Title company, and they were doing a closing, and the buyers had said, okay, well, we have wired you the money, you should see it. And the title company was saying, we do not see it. We do not see your money. And this was a cash buy, and they had saved up. It was their first home purchase, and it was in upwards of like $150,000. Fortunately, through them working all night, they were able to actually stop the wire from going through.
That's
which
amazing.
is apparently not common at all.
It is not.
And
They're very lucky.
But the way that it went down was a scam.
Yes.
And it was the buyers were getting emails that looked like they were from the title company, but they were not.
Right.
And it had provided all the fraudulent information in the email of where to wire the money.
Yes.
And I'm just like, man, that's terribly clever of the scam artists. And so this is something that you're teaching people to help avoid.
Yes, and that specifically is considered part of the business email compromise scam. And that's where they get in touch, they get a hold of like a title company or another organization, and they create an email that is almost exactly like the one, so you wouldn't question it. And those, the real estate, they're getting hit hard, and that's not the only one that I've heard of locally. And basically, they're being told by this email that either this is your new wire transfer, this is where you should do it, or we've changed it, or they're doing it for the first time. And the homeowners are believing it because with cut and paste these days, you can make an email look like anything. I mean, how many times have I gotten an email from my bank because of all of that? But for the most part, with those, you can look at the email address and you can see, oh, this is a fake email. But with those higher priced things, they're making those emails a lot harder to detect. In fact, I did just put out a press release yesterday that the Shark Tank lady, Cochran,
Yes.
she's now $388,000 less in her bank account because her assistant supposedly sent an email to her bookkeeper that said that they were working on a renovation with real estate, and they needed, this was an invoice. They sent her an invoice, and the only difference in that email address from her real assistant was one letter.
Wow.
And so the person, because she is in, it's Cochran, because she is in real estate, the bookkeeper didn't think anything of it, and she did not, confirm the money, and she wired the money. And when she wired the money, she then sent a confirmation email, and she came up with the real assistant's email address because it was probably in her contacts instead of just hitting reply. And the assistant said, "What is this? I've never seen this." And that's when they determined that it was just one letter off. And so $388,000 went to the scammer.
That's frightening.
It is. My nephew was caught in the email scam. He was an employee of a county in Maryland, and last year, or 2 years ago, actually, it's been now. The county employee that does all of their W-2s and things received an email from who she thought was the administrator, her boss, and that person, through email, asked for all of the W-2s to be sent to them to be reviewed.
Oh, wow.
She did not think about that, and she sent 300 and some W-2s to the email scammer. And by the time, it was 3 weeks before they let the county employees know, by then a lot of them had already had their IRS, their taxes filed on their behalf, and their refunds had already gotten, to the scammers. People were getting credit cards in the mail because they had used their, all the information on your W-2, and they were able to open up credit cards in people's names. They are still, to this day, going through that. Luckily for my nephew, that W-2 wasn't the only one that he usually turned in, and so the IRS threw it back and wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people lost, and this is the time of year that Social Security call is not really Social Security calling you, but they've come to understand that we've been educating people about the IRS scam and that the IRS won't call you. So now they're saying that they're calling from the Social Security Administration, and your number has been used fraudulently or found in a stolen vehicle.
Wow.
Something like that. They just want that number so that they can file on your behalf. And this time of year, it's the IRS. They're trying to get people's returns.
Ooh, that's scary.
And I can talk about this
Yeah,
all day long.
I know.
Notice I went right into it.
No, that's fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, Tammy, it has been really amazing just to learn about you, especially since I didn't know you from anybody, and just to learn about some of the things that the Better Business Bureau does and what you do for them. It's definitely been a learning experience for me. I do appreciate you sharing the personal information that you did about all the different organizations that you've been in and kind of your journey to take you from Maryland to Delaware, is that right? And then down here to Florida. Aren't you glad that you've stayed here? This is definitely much better.
It's beautiful. My friends and family, or not necessarily my family, but some of my friends are, they think I'm an hour from Disney. Yeah. It's like, we're called LA for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, great. Well, do you have anything that you want to leave any of the people that may be watching or that watch this video in the future, or anything you want to leave with them? It's all you.
I would really like to encourage people before they do business with a company or organization to contact us. You can call us at 429-002-0002, or you can go on the website at bbb.org. Check out that business, find out about them, read what other people have been saying. If you have done business with someone, go out on their page and write a review. We accept positive reviews as well as negative reviews. And if you do have a problem, contact us and we'll see if we can help.
Amazing. All right, cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone. This is Tammy Ward, the Director of Communications for the Better Business Bureau here in Northwest Florida. Not just Pensacola, 14 counties.
14 counties. We go all the way over to the Leon County line.
So that is a huge area to cover. And just reach out to Tammy. She's in the Pensacola Area Chamber Tribe group, and she's on Facebook, so you can also reach her there. And great. Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you on the next episode of One-on-One in the PACT group. Bye.